Welcome to Heal Dish, the space where healing gets real and you don't have to have it all together to grow. Each week we explore the nervous system, emotional resilience, and the journey from surviving to thriving. You're not broken, you're healing, and you don't have to do it alone. This is Heal Dish. Let's begin. Welcome everyone to another fabulous Monday here on Heal Dish, the podcast where we talk about trauma, healing, and everything in between. How's everyone doing on this fine Monday? I am your host, Gina, and it's so good to be here. So how's everyone's week going? How's everyone doing? Has everyone been doing good? I've been doing pretty good. If you notice, my relax sign is gone. I got to get up to go take a break for a second before I came back into my office studio, closed the door and heard this boom and opened the door. Was like, what on earth? And I couldn't figure out what it was till I looked on the wall and realized that my relax sign has fallen. And I was like, oh, thank goodness it didn't break anything. And so I didn't put it back up. It's fine. You can put it back up for me later. I wasn't going to mess around with it, but I'm just very grateful because a lot of my stuff over here, the purple and the new blue I have, like a lot of that stuff is all not glass, but like fragile. It'll break, and clay and all that. And I was like, oh, so I'm just so grateful that it didn't break anything else. And so how is everyone? Everyone doing good? I'm doing good. Doing really good. Had a good day today. And I got a lot accomplished and things like that. So I'm really feeling wonderful. And so today's conversation is one that often doesn't get enough attention. Let's talk about trauma and amnesia. How many trauma survivors forget things, during conversations. And so many trauma survivors carry the weight of not remembering blank spaces in childhood, events they know happened but can't fully recall, moments that feel fragmented, almost like a movie missing an entire scene. And so I have been in those shoes more times than I wanted to, than I want to admit. But I'm very transparent here, and so the truth is, I want to start with, if you've experienced this, you're not broken. You're not defective. You're not making it up. The gaps in your memory are not proof that you're unreliable. They're proof that your brain was trying to protect you. And we always go back to protection, our brain, our subconscious areas. It always goes back to protecting. And so if you've ever wondered why when people say things to you and you're like, like I can only remember bits and pieces. If you've ever been one who has ever wondered that, why you can't remember, what does it mean? And is it even possible to heal if you don't even know the entire story? And so before we dive in, I want to remind you this podcast is for educational and support purposes only. It's not therapy. And if at any point you feel overwhelmed or you feel activated, which I'm hoping that you don't, I would remind you to take a breath or pause, take a breath, and reach out if you need support. But what we're talking about tonight shouldn't be too activating. And so I'm just hoping that you guys will have notebooks available to each and every one of you. And you kind of take some notes and things like that. And so have any of you ever struggled with, a lot of us are trauma survivors, but wondering what exactly, when somebody's trying to tell you a story and you're like, yeah, like that didn't happen. And then you feel like a meathead because it's like it may have happened and then you don't understand, or you're like, oh, I don't even know. So again, I've had that happen to me on several occasions. And again, it goes back to safety. And so let's begin. Let's talk about the science of trauma and memory. And we'll kind of start with the basics about how memory works. So when something happens in your life, your hippocampus, which is kind of like your storage unit, helps encode into your memory. So your amygdala is what's responsible for your fight or flight. So it's tagged with emotion. And your prefrontal cortex gives you context and meaning. So that's the system when things are calm. And so your prefrontal cortex is good for your logical thinking, executive functioning, planning, a lot of those different things. And so when trauma happens, the system doesn't always work the same way. Trauma floods the nervous system, the brain goes into survival mode. We all know what those are: fight, flight, fawn, and freeze. And in that state, memory can get disrupted. And so, oh, here we go. Now I'm freezing all over the place. Sorry. So now I'm freezing all over the place. So let me repeat that. The brain goes into survival mode, and we all know what those are: fight, flight, fawn, and freeze. And in that state, memory can get disrupted. And it's because we're in a heightened state that our brains kind of shut off so we can figure out what's going on if there's a threat or danger. And so sometimes the brain records fragments, sensation, sounds, images, but it doesn't tie them together like kind of in a coherent story per se. That's why trauma survivors may say, I don't remember everything, but I can still feel it in my body. Um, and so there are people, I'm a very strong woman. So don't get me wrong. I am very strong. But when it comes to certain things about my past, I leave them there. I don't want to know. I know that the trauma lives in my body. I know it's in my cells. I know that it has wreaked havoc on me. And I don't need to know the details leading up to why my body feels the same way. And and there are treatments that you can take under a psychiatrist. You can take ketamine. There's other things that you can do if you are wanting to go back and kind of uncover some of the things about, things that have happened trauma-wise. Again, on my own personal story, that's something that I'm not looking to have done, only because of I don't need to know everything. My body, I'm healing, and I'm afraid doing that will just set me back, and I don't need any setbacks. And so, those are some things. There are people that, when it comes to memory and remembering and things like that, they're like, oh, I just want to remember, like, why does my body feel this way? Like, I want the connection. As if my body's feeling this way, there has to be a connection. And like I tell my clients too, the connection is that the root cause of why you're experiencing this is trauma. What are the details really going to do? But probably, I don't want to say they're going to break you more, but you're going to be so more heartbroken. And so I'm not willing to do that to myself. And so from here, I've been on this journey for almost 4 years, and so it's only going forward. I'm not going backwards. I don't need to know all of the details and anything like that. And so think about it. So other times our memory can get walled off completely. This is called dissociated amnesia. So it's kind of like dissociation. You're dissociating, and then you forget. And so it's the same thing. It's the brain's way of saying, this is too much to process right now. Let's put it away until it's safer. And so think about it, dissociation. So to give you an example of kind of dissociation, it's kind of like you're driving to work. And it's not that you're dissociating in the mental health part of it, but we do dissociate from time to time. And what ends up happening is you leave your home and you get to work. Say there's a couple stop signs and a couple lights, and all of a sudden you get to work and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I don't even remember going through stopping at the stop signs or stopping at the lights. But your brain subconsciously already knows that those stop lights were there and those stop signs were there. And so it took care of you. But then you start panicking. Oh my goodness. What happens if this happened? Well, that's kind of what dissociation is. Although what you're doing is not a bad dissociation. It's just your subconscious is just used to that way. But dissociative amnesia, again, is saying, there's so much going on right now. We can't process this. Let's put it away until it's safer. So has anybody ever dealt with that before? So if you've ever had chunks of time missing, or you can't recall parts of your childhood, there are fuzzy places around traumatic events. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means your brain did exactly what it needed to do to keep you protected and alive. And I can tell you stories. I don't I remember a lot of my trauma, and that's okay. I'm not going to share that here. But what I do want to share with you, it's kind of a funny story. My husband's on here, Sly, and so he'll kind of reiterate this and probably giggle. But back when we first met, and I don't remember this at all. My mom says it happened. My husband says it happens, and I'm like, you both are nuts because did not happen. Um, we lived in another home, and he bought me a must have been like a high dollar coffee maker, and I think it had like the frother or the espresso thing on the side of it, and whatever. And apparently, I got mad and told them to return it. Like I guess I must have flipped my lid, and just I whatever, and I was whatever else. Like we just couldn't afford it, return it, whatever. I'm sure I was not. From the conversation, I was not a nice person back then, and so he went and returned it. I don't remember that happening at all. And so that's what trauma does to you. I have friends. I have a friend that I've been friends with for over 40 years. And over the last couple of years, we've kind of went our separate way, and it's okay because sometimes you grow apart, especially when you become Christian and you're not of the world, you're of Christ. Sometimes that's what ends up happening. So it's okay. I still love her. But she'll tell me stories, and she's like, "Don't you remember we did this? Don't you remember we did that?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, I don't remember." Friends will say things too from back home. Don't you remember this? Or family, don't you remember that? No, I don't. And so it's not. It really is a part of the memory gaps. It really is a part of kind of amnesia type. And it's associated with safety. So see, so he said, yep, it was a $250 fancy dancy coffee espresso machine. And I threw a fit and I don't remember. And so it's things like that I'm like, man, can you imagine like how many other things? But because what ended up happening is because my brain, goes from the hippocampus to the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex, my limbic system, like all of that plays a role in all of it. And sometimes your body just shuts down because again, it goes back to safety. If you're not feeling safe, your body's not going to express these things. Not saying that I wasn't safe in the coffee machine, not in it, but buying it or whatever. But surrounding when we met, there was a lot of things going on. I was going through a horrible divorce, and so and then I hadn't been that long out of coming out of trauma. Even when I moved from Massachusetts to Ohio, there was still a lot of trauma that I witnessed, endured, and things like that. And so it goes back to safety. And so as you start getting safe in your life and your body feels safe, what's going to happen is more things are going to start uncovering for you. You're going to start uncovering a lot more things, and you're going to say, wow, I didn't realize that when I closed one door, I opened another. And that's because at that time, your body was feeling safe. And it's the same thing, not to bring up the art, but the neurosomatic art. That's the same thing. When I did that for 6 months, I had no feelings whatsoever. When I was ready to throw on the towel and be like, I'm done with this. My mentor, my colleague, she turned around and said to me, no, you're not, Gina. It's because your mind and body's not connected. You need to do more mindfulness, more awareness, and it'll start coming. And then when I started developing more of my own frameworks, more of digging into trauma, and all of that stuff, and really uncovering all of that, uncovering safety, and then releasing and revealing and embodying integration process of everything, going from the subconscious to the conscious level of things. I started feeling things. I could feel the somatics, the sensations in my body. I started getting emotions. I mean, I would draw and I would cry. Sometimes I would hold my tears back because other people were around, but I would feel very emotional. Other times I would get very mad, but it was working. And so, it's going back, to being aware, building that safety. And so my body didn't feel safe. It took 6 months for me before I started feeling safe with the art. And so you have to give yourself grace. You have to be patient with yourself when you're on this healing journey. You just can't go from here to here in a matter of a second. There has to be increments that you have to meet because your body needs to remain safe during the whole entire span of your recovery journey. Because even we can say you're healing or you're healed, but that might just be one aspect of it. So you're healing here, but then that's fine. You have healed this, and all the activation, you have learned all the tools and resources when it comes to that part of your trauma being activated. But once that is healed and your body's going, okay, you healed that, now it's safe, now another door swings open. That's that's the beauty of trauma recovery. It's not really beautiful, but it is. It's the beauty of the body. The body understands. And so don't ever underestimate the way that the body is, because it's amazing. The body will tell you. And so those situations that we don't like to sit in, those uncomfortable situations, those uncomfortable feelings, those uncomfortable emotions, they are rising up to tell you a story. They are rising up because they're looking for permission to come out, to surface, because they want to tell you what's going on within your body. That was one of the hardest things I had to do, was to sit and listen. I don't like to sit and listen. A lot of us stay busy because we don't like what happens up here. We don't like the cognitive distortions. We don't like the negative thinking, the negative bias. And so a lot of us, or the ruminating thoughts. So a lot of us are busy, 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 busy. And the moment you go to sit down and relax, your mind continues ruminating, 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 because you've ignored it. So you just need to sit with it and ask it, why? Why are you bringing this up? What is this pertaining to? Why does my body not feel safe? Why is this a constant thought? And just listen to yourself and kind of see. So now let's talk about what it feels like to live with those gaps. See, and Heather says, I keep myself busy always. And so a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that because they don't like the thoughts that ends up happening when we sit still. And I have learned to sit with them. I have learned to work through them. I have learned to breathe through them and say, okay, I'm safe. Like, not today, Satan. You ain't getting me today. And so I have learned, different experiences, how to sit through them. And it's very, very uncomfortable, especially so I am in kind of the flight right now. So I think you kind of go through all of them. I have been in freeze at times. Freeze is the worst. Freeze is one of the suckiest, Lord forgive me, but that's one of the suckiest reactions that you can go through, is definitely that one. And so when you're in survival mode, it's like, holy Toledo. I was in fight for a while, and now I'm in flight. And flight, I would say, is probably the second worst, because what happens with flight, if you're wondering, what happens with flight is when you don't feel safe in an environment, you are ready to flee. And your body does not care where you are. You are ready to flee. It doesn't care if you're on a train. It doesn't care if you're in an airplane. It doesn't care if you're on the bus. It doesn't care if you're in the car. It doesn't care where you are. If you're at a school program somewhere, doesn't care where you are. When your body doesn't feel safe, it wants to flee. And I can't tell you how many times sitting at ball games, sitting in the car, sitting places that I'm like, I just want to get up and run, because my body doesn't feel safe. Something about the environment does not feel safe, and I want to leave. But here's the thing. Most people would get up and leave. I don't. As uncomfortable as it is, I sit in the moment. And I sit. And I'll say, I'm safe. I'm okay. Nobody around me is going to hurt me. I'm okay. And I do that internal self-talk. And that's what helps calm me down. And so is it hard? Absolutely. I'm not going to sugarcoat and say it's easy, because it's not. But I'll tell you what, I can't wait for this flight to just kind of flight away from me. And that's what I keep praying for. But we learned last week when I went to the ladies conference, there's pain and purpose. And so we're going to turn this pain into purpose because, as you know, I'm very transparent. And so I tell a lot of the life experiences because I want people to know they're not alone. And the things that I deal with, I just don't make them up. And the things that I deal with aren't phony. They're real things. They're real after effects of trauma. They're real after effects of what the body goes through. And for some reason, I feel really emotional right now. And I don't know why, but okay. But, it's just one of those things that I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm the only one that goes through this. No. But you can overcome this. And so always remember there, as difficult as it is, but you can turn that pain into purpose because you go through things, you go through those irritants, you go through that thorn in the side because you never know when you come out on the other side, who needs to hear your inspiration and your empowerment of how you came through that. So I keep saying, okay, God, use me, help me. Because you know what? It's fine. No, it's not fine, but it's fine because I know that he's going to carry me. And I'm okay with that. So now we're going to talk about the gaps. And so for some, it's like flipping through a photo album where flipping through a photo album where certain photos are missing. For others, it's like trying to watch a movie, but the whole scenes are gone and the plot just doesn't make sense. So how many of you have been like that? You're looking through a photo album and all of a sudden, kind of the memories. It's like looking through a photo album and all of a sudden you're missing memories, bit and pieces of things. And then all of a sudden it's like watching a movie, but half the movie's missing. You're like, wait a minute, what happened? Or what happens if it's only you're trying to watch a movie and the movie has good and bad parts, but all the good parts are missing and it only wants to replay the bad parts. That's a part of dissociative amnesia. It goes back to safety. Your body doesn't feel safe to, and it's weird because a lot of times everybody thinks it's negative and it does seem like it's negative. But the thing is that it's going back to show you how powerful the body is. It's responding to something. You just have to listen to what it's responding to. I mean, think of this. Think of you as a car. You get your car serviced, right? You get your car gas. You change the brakes. You put, like my daughter, blinker fluid. No, I just had to throw that in there. But, you change whatever, like, I don't know what else, transmission fluid, oil change. I think I said, you have to check the tires. You have to check the struts and the whatever else and the suspension and everything else. Why? Because you need to make sure that your car is optimal for driving. But why are you worried about your car when you should be worried about yourself? Do you see what I mean? Like, why are you treating your car better than yourself? Why are you not checking to see what you need? Oh, because fixing your car is easy. A lot of people, you know what they'll do? Oh, here's $1,000. You'll give it to a mechanic to fix your car. Yes, it does get you to point A and point B, but if you're not optimal, you're not going to make it to point A and point B. So if you're putting $1,000 into your car, why can't you put $1,000 into yourself? Think about it. Where are your priorities? Yes, don't get me wrong. I know your car needs it, but I'm just using us as an example. That's so funny. Dave says, I only use Canadian blinker fluid, but those tariffs are killing me. Oh, that's funny. But think about it. Why, if we're a car, why are you not taking care of you? There's a lot of parts of us. And so just listen to what needs to be done. Because that's a part of healing. That's a part of transformation. It's a part of restoration when we start listening and we can identify with those difficult parts and the pieces that are coming up, because they're coming up for a reason. They're coming up to share something with you. And so in those difficult moments, just sit and listen and see if you can discover something new about yourself. So this may create some confusion. Why don't I remember what other people seem to? Or shame. What if I'm making it up? Some survivors worry that without proof, their story doesn't count. And so with mine, there are some things that I am unsure of. But you know, when I say, you know what, I have all the proof. It lives in my body. I don't need to have the memory. It's fine. I'm okay. And I will be okay. I don't need to have it all wrote down. I started my memoir probably about it's been a while ago. I'm going to say like 5 or 6 years ago. And it was a story digging deep into my trauma journey. I don't know, I'm probably on chapter 3 or 4. It's very, very in-depth. And I remember saying, you know what? I'm not sharing that with the world. The first person that picks up that book and reads that is going to be the most activated person in the world. The one thing I do not want is anybody to be activated. And so it has sat in my closet. Might even be under my bed. I don't even know. I think it might even be on my stand. I'm not sure. But it has sat there for it probably about 5 or 6 years. It has sat there. And I will never share it because God wants me to share it in a different way. And so what I have learned is when we talk about trauma, you know, trauma being the negative and, you know, and just using that as a negative example, but we need to look at the empowering side of things. Trauma sucked. Don't get me wrong, but look at the other stuff that came from it. And, you know, strength. I don't say that it made you stronger because it didn't. It changed you. May have made you a little bit stronger, but going through that didn't make you stronger. It did in a sense, but it wasn't the trauma that made you stronger. It was the recovery. Going through hell to get to where you are today is what made you the person you are today. You never gave up. Remember that. You never gave up. You're sitting here today for a reason. So again, listen to your body. And so what I want to say is I want to clearly say this. Your story counts, even if you don't have every detail. The emotional truth of your body matters, whether or not you remember everything in words. Because again, the body keeps the score, right? So it's important to normalize this. Many trauma survivors have amnesia. You are not alone in this experience, and neither will you ever be alone. You know, and I've shared, you know, and when I get on here, you know, at first when I started doing my podcasting, even doing my videos, I always say that I'm a recovering perfectionist. But if I would have just did when I was saying many, if I would have bloopered that, I would have been so embarrassed. I would have been like, oh my goodness, like here I am live. And, you know, what a goober. I am such a fool. I'm an idiot. You know, now they're going to see all my faults. And I would have just been burning up with shame. Now I'm just like, you know what? You can see me because now you see the real Gina. Remember, I've shared this with all of you before. Now you get to see me. You get to see bloopers and all, because now welcome to the world of a trauma survivor. And so I fumble my words. I forget sometimes what I'm saying. And so, yeah, there are times, I'm not going to lie, I have to use a script. I try not to read it because, you know, I don't want to look like I'm just sitting here reading it. I do read it throughout the day before and, you know, a few days leading up to it. I have it, you know, one, because my confidence, I'm just like, okay, we'll see. But then the other thing is because I don't want to forget anything. And eventually I'm trying to work towards doing like bullet points, but that goes back to a lot of, it could be confidence, but for me, it goes back to being forgetful, like, but it takes training. And so I'm working to train my brain to remember. And you just can't read something once or twice and think it's going to be embedded. No, it takes time. And so I'm just not there yet, but I will get there. But I like being very transparent, and I like you to see the blooper part of things and to see that I am human. I am a trauma survivor. And yes, things happen and things don't go as planned at times. And I'm okay with that and things like that and things. So, yeah. So I'm glad that I could have those little bit of bloopers why we do these things, because that's what keeps it raw and real. And people can relate to that because they can go, oh, wait a minute. Like, wow, like I goof up with my words. I fumble my words all the time. It's perfectly fine. Even in my videos, I fumble my words, and I still find myself when I'm recording, I still find myself wanting to go back and edit and start over. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm getting better at that I'll just record it and be done. I edit a couple, add like some effects and stuff and then be done. But as far as, taking stuff out and things like that, I want people to see the authenticity of who I truly am and the effects, what they have done to me and things like that. So why does the brain forget? It's all about survival. Imagine being in danger and your system deciding, we can't handle the full weight of this right now, so we're going to protect you by hiding it away. So it's your body. It's your body deciding what's happening. And so that's why I said you have to take care of your body like you do your car. You have to. You have to take care of your vessel. You just have to. And so it's about survival. It's all about survival and switching from survival to thrive. So surviving to thriving, that's what we're trying to do. But your body's trying to protect you. Your body's trying to protect you from moving forward. It needs you to sit with it and identify what's going on. That's why, again, the ruminating thoughts continue, because nobody will sit with them and things like that. And so what ends up happening is that dissociation and amnesia, they're both survival strategies. And so they're not flaws. And it's the same thing like kind of dissociation, like, so growing up, when your parents used to yell and scream at you, and maybe you only heard like a little bit of it. And then, they're like, didn't you hear me? No, I didn't hear you. That's because you were blocking it out. Your brain was blocking out what they were saying as a survival mechanism. It was a protection. So it's not always bad. It was protecting you from having all of those words embed in your mind and in your body and everything else, although the things that we did deal with are. But think about it. It does have protection. And so that portion of it, you just kind of spaced out. That's kind of what it's like. You spaced out. And so remember, those aren't flaws. They're survival strategies. And that's what we have to remember, those types of things. Sometimes those memories return later, often when a person is in a safer environment. Maybe through dreams, flashbacks, or even sensory triggers, like a sound, a smell, a place, music. And then unfortunately, sometimes they never return. And so sometimes it's just, it goes back to, sometimes I often wonder this. I mean, I don't know for sure, but sometimes I often wonder if it goes back to maybe I don't really want to say the amount of trauma, but in a way I'm kind of like, I wonder if it goes off of like maybe the amount of trauma or, the amount of negative, because every day, why I say this is this, your hippocampus is like your storage unit. So all your memories are always going in there. But if you're filling it with negative things, the negativity is going to take over that. And so everything that comes out of your mouth, everything in your body you're feeling is always going to be at a negative stance. And so negative will most always outride positive. So you have to start fueling your brain with more positivity. You have to start fueling your hippocampus. Start doing a lot more positive, thinking a lot more positive. I know that's easier said than done, and things like that too. But that's what it goes back to. It goes back to looking at things. I mean, I use this a lot. Changing. We always carry so much on our back and our backpack, always so much negativity. And before you know it, we're like weighed down like this. And it's like, wait a minute. You had the opportunity to dump all of that out. Why didn't you? Why didn't you dump any of that out? It's because we're so accustomed as trauma survivors to carry negative, we sometimes forget what positive feels like. And so it's always about creating new memories, allowing those memories to override a lot. For me, I have missed out on so many things with my children. We got to do a lot, but there's so many things I don't remember, and it breaks my heart. My husband will say, "You don't remember that?" No, I don't. I don't remember that. My daughter will say something. I'll say, "I don't remember that either." And so it's heartbreaking, but I'm like, I'm glad I got to do it with you, but I don't remember. Or my oldest son will say something. I was like, yeah, no, I don't even remember that. And it's unfortunate. But even if I don't remember, I'm glad that they remember. Maybe someday, when my body is more healed, I will be able to remember a lot more of the memories that I had with my kids. And with my husband as well. But for now, unfortunately, I don't. And that is heartbreaking to me. But, hopefully now that I'm on the other side and I'm trying to get healed and I'm trying to do things, I'm hoping that I can create more memories that I can remember until the day that I die. And that's my goal. I want them to come to me and say, "Hey, Mom, do you remember this?" And me say, "Oh, yeah, I remember that." That's what I want. And that's what I want for you too. And here's something very important. Healing doesn't depend on retrieving every missing memory. Healing is about integration, creating safety in the present moment, building resilience, and learning to live with what is in the here now. You don't need to know every detail of the past to reclaim your peace in the present moment. So it's your time to reclaim your peace. Reclaim it. Don't let the past win. Work on who you are. Work on your vessel. Work on your vessel to be optimal. That's what we need. When you start working on yourself, when you start pouring into yourself, when you start pouring into others, you got to pour into yourself first. But when you start pouring into yourself and over and over and over, your cup is gonna run over, and you're gonna start pouring into everybody else. People are gonna see the things and be like, "Holy smokes! Like this is cool," and look at you as an inspiration and empowering, and so that's what we look for. That's what we look for. And so it's making sure that you're taking care of yourself in the midst of everything. So does this sound like any of you? Has anybody ever came to you and brought up a story, and then all of a sudden you're like, "I don't remember that." And they're like, "What do you mean you don't remember?" Has that ever happened to you? And then you're just sitting there going, "Wow, now I feel like a goober because now, they're saying it happened, and now I don't remember it happening." Has that ever happened to you? Is that you? Because if that is you, you're not alone. Again, you're not alone. It goes back to your survival mechanisms, your coping mechanisms. And it shows you where your body is. It shows you where you are. So what does healing look like when amnesia is part of your story? So first, it's about safety. And then if memories do surface, they often come in fragments. And so the goal here isn't to chase them. It's to stay grounded in the present moment. And so don't go chasing for answers. Just live in the moment, be present in the ground, and be grounded in the present, and see what happens. Because maybe just maybe that those memories We're at a time that you were going through something so horrific that your body's like, if I bring up that memory, she or he is going to remember that. And I don't want he or she to remember that. So I have closed off that memory for now. So do you see how powerful the body is? The body is super powerful when it comes to healing. The body is super powerful when it comes to keeping you safe. So that's one of the things that you really need to pay attention to is your body. And really looking at those. So then when we use, tools and resources and grounding tools and meditation, and like breath work and somatic practices, kind of like stretching, when you're doing mindfulness, even the creative outlets like what I developed, neuro somatic art. And so where your hand can express what your mind doesn't yet have words for. And so what it is you're literally using that in the moment of learning. I'm breathing through this. What's coming up for me? And making sure that when you're doing these, I think I have to stress this, because a lot of people will use grounding tools, and they will just do them. And sometimes they don't have a coach or a therapist and they're doing them. And then things are coming up, which is great, but then you don't have the tools and resources to ground yourself and regulate your nervous system and your emotions again. So I can't stress enough that when you're using breath work, when you're using somatic work, when you're doing mindfulness, when you're doing neurosomatic art, that you make sure that you are with a professional of some sort, that is an expert in those, that is willing to work with you. Because if there's something that comes up, and you don't know how to calm yourself down, it can really escalate, especially breath work. Breath work can get very activating, and that's why I like the art, because it does breath work and mindfulness together, but it's never really activating, to the point that, you're like, oh my goodness. And it's a really good somatic practice as well, and stuff like that. So, just make sure that you're working alongside a professional. I think that's one of the things that kind of irritate me about the school. I'm all for teaching the kids coping skills, and and grounding skills and calming yourself down skills. I'm all for that. But when you're literally taking a breathwork class for like 2 weeks, that doesn't cut it for me. When you're taking a mindfulness class for like 1 week, that doesn't cut it for me, because breath work can be very calming, but it can be very activating. Same with mindfulness. It can be very calming, but it can be very activating. And so I don't think that they really they really look at the whole entire picture when they're doing all of these things. And so if it was me, I would be like, here's a piece of paper, draw. You need to calm down. Here's a piece of paper, draw. Draw circles. Circles are harmony. Start drawing. You need to calm down. Let's take our shoes and socks off and go step on the grass. We're going to ground right now. Or you know what? Get you some fake pieces of grass and, whatever, and have them touch their feet. It's all about grounding. It's all about shifting your mindset on something else, is what you're doing. Journaling is a big one. But journaling doesn't take out the somatic portion of it. And so I just want to be clear. Journaling is great, but journaling doesn't have any somatic, somatic, whatever it is. I don't even know, like releases to it. It does not. It does in a way, but not the way that breath work and other somatic practices and the art will. It gets it out of the mind. But if you're feeling it in your body, but you don't know why you're feeling it in your body and where you're feeling it, you're not going to understand why. And so, yeah. So, and then second, healing is about compassion. Instead of saying, what's wrong with me for not remembering, try asking, how amazing is it that my brain protected me until now? That's a big one, isn't it? It's a big one. Your brain is protecting you. I mean, what more do you want? Like, isn't that amazing though? I mean, it sucks to be here. Trust me, I know. But isn't it amazing that our brains are so designed to protect us and our bodies to tell us, hey, wait a minute, danger. Wait a minute, scan that. Don't do that. Oh, nope, don't like that. If you listen to your body, it will tell you. And so don't say to yourself, what's wrong with me for not remembering? Don't be negative and say, oh, I'm broken. Ah, I must be screwed up. No, 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 no. You got to ask yourself again, how amazing is it that my brain has protected me up until now? Do you see the difference in the wording? It's more compassionate. When you speak to your body in a compassionate way, you bring out safety. You bring out compassion within you, self-compassion. That self-compassion leads to self-love. That self-love leads to self-worth. And then it's self-acceptance. I need to write that down. Hold on. I might have to go back and I'll have to go back and watch this when I'm done because I don't have it all. I know I don't, but that was a good one. And so really going back and paying attention. It's all about building self. Because you know what I've learned? Nobody is going to be there for you but you. Nobody is going to cheer you on except you. Nobody's going to be in your corner but you. So you have to give yourself love, compassion, acceptance. That's all things that your body longs for. That's what it's looking for when it's looking for love, compassion, safety, protection. It wants to know that you love yourself, that, you know, and all of those things, that you accept yourself. Stop being self-critical of yourself. Do we have any questions this far about anything that I've talked about at all? Has anybody ever dealt with this part of their journey where there is some amnesia and you're wondering, wow, and this is really opening up your eyes to some things that you have been dealing with, and it makes a lot of sense for you? And if that's you, I just want to let you know again that you're not alone. As a community of trauma survivors, as a trauma survivor myself, that's why I do this week after week, to bring awareness to the after effects of trauma, the correlation of mental health to trauma, to bring you coping skills, real raw truth about what trauma does. As you see, nobody would have ever made the connection of missing pieces, you know, and forgetfulness to trauma. And it always goes back, the root cause of most everything that we've endured in our life always goes back to some sort of trauma. So just give yourself grace. And then pick up where, you know, pick up and say, you know what? Here I am. It does stink, Sherry. Thank you for being here. And it does stink. But, you know, it's a matter of saying, you know what? Here it is. And now you have a name for it. And now you have a name for it. And now it's like, it's a part of your journey. It's a part of who you are. And yes, I know it is horrible. Don't get me wrong. I know. But, you know, looking at it and going, okay, I have a name for this. And remember, it's all about protection. It's all about going back and saying, yeah, no, what is my body trying to keep me safe from? And that's what you have to look at. And so when I was making those memories with my children, you know, it's unfortunate that I lost a lot of memories that I don't remember. But then I look at it and go, was the memories that I created with my children similar to the memories that I created with those that hurt me? And so my brain thought, oh, I don't want to bring up these memories, even though they're good memories, because if I bring up good memories, I'm afraid it's going to bring up the bad memories too. So your brain is very powerful. Your body is very powerful. Remember that. And so I want to close with a few reflection questions for you to sit with tonight. So have I noticed memory gaps in my own story? So Dave says, yeah, you got the wheels turning here. Thank you for being transparent, Dave, and you as well, Sherry. It's important. It's important to understand this, because we go through these things and then people, again, they always think they're alone. We always feel alone in our journeys. And to say, you know what, you're not alone. And to say, you know what, I understand what's happening. And again, to give yourself grace and to say, okay, it's my body. My body doesn't feel safe enough to allow me the opportunity to remember these things. So how do you feel about the things that you don't remember? Sometimes, to be honest, I kind of feel bad. And then I kind of question, did that really happen? Um, and and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, if they're saying it, then chances are because we have done crazy stuff before. But there are. Um, yeah, Dave says definitely got a couple squeaky wheels. Oh yeah, I think we all do, Dave. It's fine. We all do. And Sherry said it's horrible, and it is. I mean, Sherry and I have talked and stuff like that, and it is. Um, it really does stink because I feel like it puts a damper in there. Um, and looking at it. And so, could you reframe forgetting? Could I reframe forgetting as my brain's way of protecting me? So, what could you do instead? So, reframing from, so what's happening is again, your body, your brain is protecting you. That's why it's forgetting. And so it's building the awareness, building the mindfulness to help you stay connected. Excuse me, when you're in a safe place and you're grounded, you'll remember more. So, what helps me feel safe and grounded in the present moment? Think about that. What do you do that keeps you grounded? Do you go outside? Do you journal? Do you do art? What are you doing to stay safe and grounded in the present moment? When you become activated, what are you doing in the present moment? And that's huge. That's a huge part of your recovery. Because when we become activated, and some of you may be slightly activated because now you're going, whoa, wait a minute. Like, there's things that now this is making sense. And why are these coming up? What am I doing? Scott says fishing when I can, and that's a good one. That's really good to be out in nature. To be out in nature, just to think about things. But staying grounded in the present moment, being out in nature, walking on the grass with no shoes, soaking up all of those ions. Heather says cleaning. And so, if that makes you feel safe and it makes you feel grounded in the present moment, what makes you feel safe? And so again, it goes back to, let me it's like breath work, mindfulness, building awareness, neurosomatic art, fishing, cleaning, going for a walk, meditating on the Bible, stretching, listening to something else can divert your attention and make you feel grounded and safe. Grabbing a blanket and hugging yourself with the blanket. The blanket would be like the hugging you. Those are all things that you can do. I mean, there's more, but those are things that just off the top of my head that I remember, that you can feel grounded and safe in the present moment. And so what I would like you to do is I want you to take a breath with me. What I'd like you to do is inhale slowly through your nose, if you can. If you can't inhale through your nose, just slowly do it through your mouth. And then what I'd like you to do is I want you to exhale gently out of your nose if you can. If not, out of your mouth is fine. And let that remind you that your body is here in the now, keeping you safe. So Dave says, I used to love to tinker and build stuff, but haven't been able to break back into my creative side since my cancer. And so cancer may have, caused some things. I mean, I'm sure that you've, I believe you were on chemo, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so that really wipes you out for a while. And I think really, giving yourself some time to build yourself back up and saying, okay, and slowly starting, slowly start tinkering with things around and seeing, because your body's looking for, the safety of everything that you've gone through. And, and going back and just slowly implementing something where you can tinker around and, just screw around with whatever you're doing and slowly get back into it. And then before you know it, you're like, oh yeah, I really like this. Like this is really helping me. It's taking the edge off things and really helping me. And it's the same thing with the art. Like I love doing the neurosomatic art. I absolutely love it. And so I'll sit here for 2 or 3 hours and do it because it's just so relaxing to me. But there's times in the evening I don't have that time. And so I'll try to do like I'm a little bit faster at it now because I've been doing it for longer. So I usually can have one done within an hour, but there are times that I go back through and I just take a little bit longer, and that's okay. And I love it. And so, between that and then I make a lot of aromatherapy products, especially a pain cream. That'll be hitting the market soon too. I got to get my labels and get all of that. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion that we'll be talking about. Maybe it'll be on my website though. But it's, there's days I'm just like, oh, I don't feel like doing this either. So Dave, I truly understand, not coming from, that side of it, but coming from a trauma survivor perspective, I totally understand. And then you add cancer on top of that. And then, your chemo and then, so you're slowly, it's almost been a year, but it's not even a full year yet. And so, it beats you down bad. Just like Sly said, chemo just beats you down bad. And so giving yourself, a little bit of time and saying, okay, I'm slowly going to ease myself back into this, getting the energy. I think the energy is one of the biggest things, because a lot of times I know as for myself, I'm always tired, and it goes back to trauma because our body is always fighting for us. And so not only is your body fighting for you, but then the chemo from, you're having cancer and then your body was trying to fight that and then the chemo and stuff. So you have a lot going on. And so slowly easing into getting back to doing what you love and leading with compassion and saying to and listening, I'm not saying, but listening to your body in the moment, listening. That's the best thing you can do is listen. Your body will tell you when it's tired. Your body will tell you when enough is enough. But it's just slowly implementing to get to where you need to be. And so that's what I do. I've just kind of took my art down a notch and said, I'm not going to draw for 2 or 3 hours. My goal is 30 minutes. Might even be times I only draw for 10 minutes, and that's fine. After that, I'm like, okay, if I feel like drawing a little bit longer, I will. And sometimes some people don't give themselves a time limit, and that's okay too. So, yeah. So he said, I think physically I feel okay. It's just the mental side of it. And absolutely. You've been through a lot. So you have to think of what everything did to you. It's not just it is physically as well. I mean, you may feel physically fine, but then you have to go back and look at, what type of energy do you have? Do you have energy of, like the healing energy? Or are you having energy because you're just on the go, 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 go energy? So I can't think of what that energy is called. So forgive me. But kind of like the energy that when you get done for the day, you're so physically exhausted. You're like, I'm done. So really looking at what it is. See, for me, um, I usually don't go to bed. I'm up. My husband, I don't know what time he gets up. 6. So I'm up about 6 whenever his alarm goes off. So I'm up usually, I'll just say by 6:30. Um, and there's times I don't go to bed till 11, 12 o'clock. And it's not that I'm not physically tired. I could probably stay up for a long time. I don't really get physically tired, but I get mentally tired. And I feel drained mentally. And it's because of everything that I do throughout the day and things like that. And so I do understand where you're coming from, but just check in with yourself and make sure that, what type of energy are you fueling? Because even sometimes, even though we're mentally tired, that can flow over to our physical, and it causes us to have more adrenaline, and then we are kind of amped up in a way. And so it's not really a good fuel, but sometimes in the trauma community and the trauma world, that's what ends up happening. And so I've had to, look at myself in those situations and go, okay, is that what's happening? Like, is this more of a mental or is this physical? And I do get both. I do try to get up and walk around and walk around the yard, do what I need to do, because I don't like just sitting. Excuse me. So I want to be able to get up and move and things like that too, and everything. So yeah. And so I thank each and every one of you, for sharing and things like that. That means a lot to me. And then it means a lot to everybody else that can see them as well, and to let them know as well that they're not alone. Whether we're dealing with, physical, mental, emotional, they'll all go hand in hand. I think they all drain us just the same. And when you're physically and mentally and emotionally drained, I think, when you're all three of them, I think it's like, oh my goodness, I need to relax. And when you do have all three of them, you really do need to go relax. When you are to the point that physically, mentally, and emotionally, that you are completely drained, you need to go rest, or you're on the verge of like being knocked out for weeks. And you're not going to be able to probably get up because your body knows, and your body's like, you need rest. If you won't rest, I'm going to put you in rest. And I know firsthand how that feels too. And it's not a good feeling at all. All right. So as we wrap up, remember this: memory gaps don't mean that you're broken. They mean that your brain did its job. You're protected. It protected you. Healing doesn't require perfect recall. Healing is about presence, safety, and reclaiming your life. So I take it when I had said about the physical, mental, and emotional, that's what you're referring to, Dave? I don't want to assume, but I'm thinking that's probably what you are referring to. So trauma survivors that have complex trauma, they will continue, like they get tired very easily because of everything going on. Okay, I thought so. Thank you for that, for the clarity. And so when you have CPTSD, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of things within the body, and so it's totally different than PTSD, and so there's just so many different things to it. And what happens is it's more of the physical, mental, and emotional side of things. And once you're drained, it's like you are down for the count. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, like this is insane. And it's happened to me that I just don't listen to my body, and I will just go and go and go and go and go. And then what happens for me is I end up getting sick, and then I'm down for 2-3 weeks. When God just said, you know what, Jean, if you would have just listened to me in the first place and stopped being stubborn, and you would have rested when you needed to, I wouldn't have had to put you in rest and timeout. And that's what happened. And so listening to your body and knowing what the physical symptoms are, you will start to realize when your body is excessively tired, and really understanding those things. And Sherry said, I started having non-epileptic seizures because my body made me start taking breaks from so much trauma. And they will. They will. Your body is that is. And being a workaholic and working, I mean, especially as providers for our families, we work and work and work. And so what ends up happening is that we overdo it at times and we don't take care of our bodies. That's why I went back to the car. You have to treat your vessel. You have to treat yourself like you would your car. Well, for those that have cars anyway, no, you should still treat yourself as if you have a good car. And that's something that you really should think about. What is your self-care? What are you doing for yourself? What is your self-care regimen? And when we work so much, when we have so much trauma, our bodies are not functioning at optimal levels like they should be. Um, and so it is. And so what ends up happening is the body's going, okay, you don't want to listen to me. You don't want to relax. Guess what? Unfortunately, now I'm going to get you to rest because you don't want to do anything else. And so making sure that you take care of yourself, listening to your body, understanding what exhaustion is. If you don't know what the feeling of exhaustion is, you really need to research it and then identify that in your body. Any of us, not just saying it to one person, but everybody. Because when you become exhausted, ugh, you could have seizures. You could become very sick and have a lot of different health ailments and things like that. And then you're going to be down for the count and wish, oh man, I wish I would have just listened to begin with. And so that's another reason, again, I do these podcasts is to really bring a lot of truth, not the life experiences, but what we're sharing in here. So everybody else can learn from each other. It's not about just me sharing. It's about everybody else in the trauma community sharing and saying, you know what, this is what happens to me. And then somebody else going, well, wait a minute, that happens to me too. And so then Sherry said, yeah, it started them almost 3 years now. I'm always tired anymore. It's hard a lot of days. And it is. And so have you ever considered taking like a methylated B vitamin to help you? I think that's really what helped me was I started taking B vitamins and I feel fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I still get tired. But the vitamins have really helped me. And I actually, I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but I actually get my pre-probiotics and my vitamins from Happy something. I can't even think of what they are now. Oh my goodness. You got you can message me, Sherry. And I can tell you if you're interested. There's also another B methylated vitamin that I take as well. I don't take it as much, but you could always just take that or the other. But both of them together have really helped me, and really helped me with my brain fog, my energy, concentration and stuff like that. Even though sometimes I feel like I'm scattered, but it's really helped me with a lot of concentration and stuff like that too. Dave says physical is a lot easier to come back from for me. I still can't figure out the emotional and mental part yet, which takes me out physically, damn circles. And absolutely it will. And it will. And so it's because you're so drained emotionally and mentally that your body can only withstand so much. And so you can be, very physical and you can have a lot of physical energy and think, oh yeah, I'm not going to let anything take over, get over on me today. And as soon as you start getting emotionally drained, and it goes back to the triggers, it goes back to activation, it goes back to what emotionally is draining our body, what mentally is draining my body. And really picking up on those cues, really paying attention. When you really start feeling drained emotionally and mentally, what is it? Why? Where can you find that in your story and your day that is really making you drain? And hopefully with that, you'll be able to tell okay, so this is what I tell my clients. What were you listening to? Who were you around? Where were you? What were you watching? all of those activate our nervous systems in a good or in a bad way. I really don't want to say bad. Let's say positive and negative. That sounds better, more professional. And really paying attention to it. Really paying attention. And then when that happens, pay attention to what feelings, what emotions are coming out. Your body is expressing a lot of emotions, a lot of emotions and things. Here, I'm going to put that here in here for you. All right. There you go, Dave. There's my email. And so a lot of it goes back to really looking at the emotions. But again, if you aren't connected neuro and somatically, which, neurosomatic, mind and body, psychology and physiologically, if you're not connected here, you're going to have a lot of emotional and mental exhaustion because you can't identify what's going on. You're not going to be able to identify because your body's not connected. So Sly says, a friend of mine I went to school with had brain cancer, and they took like a third of his brain, or the right side of his brain, and then 3 more times taking out part of it. He would go weeks without sleep, 26 or 27 days and never sleeping. Yeah. And sometimes we get to the point that we are so physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted that we can't sleep. We have all been there. You've been so overtired that you lay in bed and go, oh my golly, I just want to sleep. And you can't. Your body is just so physically tired. Yeah, I remember he did pass away. Rest his soul. And really paying attention. When you start getting into those exhaustion states, you really need to pay attention to what your body's trying to teach you, because it's really trying to protect you. It really wants you to rest in the moment. And so as we wrap up, remember this. Again, memory gaps don't mean that you're broken. They mean your brain did its job. It protected you. Healing doesn't require perfect recall. Healing is about presence, safety, and reclaiming your life. So what I want to say is thank you so much for joining me today on Healdish. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who might need it. And so Sly said, it hurt me deep when he passed away. We were best buds in school. And I know you were. And it was just so sad. It's so sad when anybody goes through anything like that and unfortunately loses their life. It's devastating. When you fight the good fight and then, you think that things are going to get better and it's like, oh man, here we go. And so, it stinks. So thank you for joining me tonight on Healdish. It was so wonderful to have each and every one of you here. If this episode again resonated with you, I would please appreciate it if you would hit the like and the share button. If you haven't subscribed, that would mean the world to me as well. I go live every Monday at 7:30. This is the mental health and trauma side of things. I try to go live during the week. Slowly getting there. It's a lot when you start doing all of this. It's a lot. I'm going to do my neurosomatic art, and then we will start having a Christian podcast pretty soon as well. And so remember to subscribe so you'd never ever miss a episode. You can always go back and look at a lot of the other episodes and stuff that I have from the podcast and other videos and stuff I uploaded as well. And so please remember that you're not broken, you're healing, and you're never alone in this journey. We have a community of trauma survivors here, very compassionate, very loving, very supportive. And so you're welcomed here. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've gone through, you're welcome here. So until next time, take care of your nervous system and be gentle with yourself. Good night, everyone. Good night, Dave, Sly, Sherry, Michael, Scott, Heather. Good night to each and every one of you. Good night to all of my other listeners that were here tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I will see you next week. Thank you so much, guys. Good night.